Alright, so today we're going to be trying out these Caron Chunky Cupcakes. I got this for a great price with all my coupons and stuff, so I'm super excited to try this hat. What I'm most excited about is actually this little pom-pom thing. I feel like the concept of crocheting a hat while not having to do like a yarn pom-pom that's constantly shedding and all of that is actually a super great idea. So it says, according to the instructions, I will need a 5mm crochet hook. Yeah, let's take a look. Here's this, how is this connected here? I'm assuming that is holding the ball. I don't know how that's connected. We'll have to figure that out. So actually it looks like you need two hooks, 5mm and then a 5.5. So with the smaller hook, it looks like you're going to do some back loop only ribbing, and then you'll do the rest of the hat and everything with that. So this actually looks pretty easy. I do hate how this is like super condensed. So it's going to be a little hard to follow along, but we'll give it a shot. Okay, so according to our pattern, we will do a chain 8. And I'm super excited about this because I've been obsessed with like multicolored yarns. I just love the color shifts. I think that that's super motivating, so I'm really excited to do this pattern, and this yarn is super soft. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, that was 8. Next, we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So we'll have 7, and then we're going to do back loops only until it is 19.5 inches long when slightly stretched. Okay, easy enough. This yarn's actually almost a little bit like slippery. Maybe it's just kind of getting started. I feel like it's kind of hard for my fingers to grip. First row. Oops, I'm so used to doing double crochet. Alright, so I think that's enough of watching me do this. And then when I finished the 19.5 inches of this back loop only ribbing, then we'll come back and we'll start the next part. Alright, the cuff is at our size of 19.5 when it is stretched, I believe. Let's measure one more time. Get that, we're going to switch to our bigger hook, single crochet to form a tube, and then we're going to be doing some foundation rounds to kind of form the actual main portion. Okay, so technically I have finished this hat. I don't love how it looks. I feel like it's not even showing up on camera, but it's like super pointy at the top. I don't love the way they did decreases. Instead of doing a single crochet 2 together, they have you doing a single crochet, they have you doing single crochet 3 together for all of the decrease rows, which I think is a little bit too drastic. The other thing is I'm not super happy with how they have the pattern written for doing the moss stitch. I feel like you have a really big line here, and this probably should have been worked in a continuous spiral. I could definitely go back and change this and try to do it in a continuous spiral, and then also fix these decreases so it's done as 2 together. But honestly, I don't really want to. I was really looking forward to following the pattern kind of as it was written. I did think about just kind of cutting it off and being done with where we're at, but I've decided against that. I did find they have a bunch of other patterns for these online, and I found a knitting pattern that I'm going to try. So I found a knitting pattern for this hat, and I'm going to try it as a knitting pattern frog olive where I'm at, and see if this turns out a little bit better for me. I'm hopeful that trying the knitting pattern and following this will be better, and I'm just kind of trying to get a feel for this yarn, so I'm hopeful that that will do the trick. So I'm just going to frog where we're at. The other thing I will say is we have a decent bit of yarn left from this crochet pattern, which I was a little bit surprised by. One thing I did notice that was kind of interesting is the beginning of this pattern. They don't tell you the number of rows for this. They give you a measurement, which I feel like is a little bit weird when you have kind of a finite amount of yarn for the pattern that you're trying to complete. And then the other thing that was a little weird is when you get down to kind of the end and you're doing your decreasing, it says like the second and alternate rounds, third round, so then I would assume fourth round would be an alternate round, fifth round, sixth round would be an alternate round. It kind of leaves a little bit to the imagination, which for a beginner-friendly pattern I thought was a little bit confusing. It doesn't also help that this is like super tiny, so I actually copied this and then kind of blew it up so I could actually read it. But we're gonna frog this and we're gonna try the knitting pattern instead. Alright, since changing to a knitting pattern, I have this much of that ribbing done. I think I have about 1.5 inches more to go for the brim of the hat. And then once I do that, we're on to the main body of the hat. I will say it's interesting seeing the differences in this yarn working up with knit versus crochet. I think crochet was a little bit more random, kind of fun, because you do work more back and then forth, versus this you're working fully in the round to complete this, so you are getting more of that visible striping. I think so far it looks super cute, and I'm excited to see what this continues to become. Alright, so the hat is completely finished. I fastened off, tied up this last few stitches. I did end up making it just a little bit longer than the pattern recommended. I kind of like having the cuff on the bottom a little thicker and then having a little bit more room on top. So my last step is to weave in my ends and then to tie on my pom-pom, so I'll go ahead and do that now. this hat is finally done. The pom-pom is sewn on. I did just do just like some regular sewing to get it on there. I did see kind of a variety of methods and stuff online, so I figured sewing would be the best. And I've woven in my ends, and now this hat is all done. I really loved this pattern. I thought this was super fun. I love the loops and stuff it made. As somebody who's primarily a crocheter, I thought this was super fun and different. Not something I would typically do. So I would love to make more of these, maybe in some different colorways and stuff if I can get my hands on more of this yarn. This one I will probably be listing for sale, so if you're interested, I'll have the link down below in the description to purchase it. So overall, I thought this was really great yarn. It was a very soft yarn to work with. It's a really nice weight. It's probably a little thicker than your standard worsted weight yarn, which I really loved. I love the different color changes and stuff in this. I thought it worked out really nice, both crochet and knit, which was really cool, because sometimes they work up differently, but they don't necessarily work as well with one versus the other, so I thought that was awesome. I will say there's a lot of different patterns that they have online for this chunky cupcake yarn. I saw, I think, 2 crochet patterns and 2 knit patterns out there. So I had tried this one, and I didn't love how it looked. The decreases and stuff were not turning out like this pattern looks. So I didn't love that. And then the knit pattern I thought was super great. This turned out exactly like I wanted. The only modification I made was making it just a wee bit taller. But yeah, otherwise I would say this yarn was super great. I would definitely use it again. And I think that this yarn is definitely something that would be good for more of a beginner, because they do have those patterns and stuff kind of pre-done for you. And it's also just super soft and easy to work with. It doesn't have any splitting or anything like that. One thing I will say is, with both the crochet pattern and the knit pattern I tried, I did end up with a ball about this size remaining. So, you know, I did make this taller than I was supposed to. So maybe you'd have a little more if you followed the pattern to a T. What I don't know is, like, what do I do with this yarn now? It's not enough to do another hat, I don't think, unless I made something maybe a little smaller. And yeah, it seems like no matter what pattern you follow, you'll end up with a bit of yarn left over. So I don't know what we'll do with this. We'll probably have to use it for some sort of scrap project. So that's the only disappointing part, is I wish there was a little bit less extra left over. But I do appreciate they have knitting and crochet patterns that are designed for this yarn, and you will be able to for sure make one hat with that yarn, which is awesome. So let me know if you have any ideas for the scrap yarn. Otherwise, I would give this yarn a 10 out of 10 rating. I would definitely use it again, and I'm excited to do so in the future. Thanks for watching.